you know? So you got to find the synthesis. So what do? You tie in that which is defective into that which is not defective. For a period of time, you will oscillate between defect and no defect until balance is met. And that's the law of mind. So the reason why black people agreed to this suffering and oppression, because it was the fastest way. And we were the only ones strong enough. And they was the only ones heartless enough. And when you put it all together and you do the math, you realize it wouldn't work no other way. We were strong enough, smart enough, and wise enough to do it, but we was too loving, kind, compassionate, and caring. We couldn't bring ourselves to oppress ourselves in order to clean the shit up. They never had a family. They never had what you call, God call men of big affairs before the rise. Go back and look at the history from an outside perspective. You'll see it right there. So Mama wanted them to know what it was like to rule. And she wanted them to understand what it was like to be in power, have power, hold power, and fight the corruption that comes with the power. And so you hear them saying that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. This is all what we're talking about. And so, in summarizing it, the white people that was originally there don't exist no more. The level of birth defects is diminishing, so they have to artificially construct birth defects using the modern medicine and the poisoning of the child in the womb to simulate the birth defects that would not otherwise be there. When they stop doing that is when we tell them that we're not going to allow our women to be experimented on while they're gestating our next generation. And we will stop using hospitals for pregnant women, and all over you'll see what they call doula centers, midwifery, the original stuff. The doula center was the true sources of healing for Earth. And I see you giving me hearts because you're going to be in there on that doula center. You can give me a whole bunch of more of them. I see you. Anyway, so the doula center is where pregnant women go to gestate in peace. Now, the doula center is only necessary for special women because once the family structure is set up in its proper order, the doula center will be in the center of the village. And the women will naturally go there at the time they discover they're pregnant. And they'll stay there until they give birth because they're going to get certain things in the doula center that they're not going to ever get in the hospital. The hospital was never meant for sick people. You got to remember the hospitals were hospitality places for sojourners to go at night. Those were the original priestesses of Neith. And that's why the nurses wear the white uniform. Those were the uniforms of Neith. Those were her dress. You go back and look in the pyramids, and you'll be surprised at how much Neith is dressed like a modern-day nurse. Because her place of hospitality had nothing to do with the places of sex that they turned into brothels in the rape campaign, in the subjugation of the woman. And so now we got the whole story laid out in front of us when Constantine is putting this cross-dresser in the place of the Black Madonna in Rome. And because he done this dude been masquerading as the Black Madonna ever since. And he's an imposter. The whole male priest, the only priest should be there is what you call your Swiss guard, which is the protectors of the external reaches of the Madonna priesthood, or what they call your Catholicism, which is the cataholics, which goes back again to the stars tying into the planet, which is your zodiacal sign of Leo, which is the Sphinx, which is the female guardian of Earth, who sits and waits and looks to the west for the Son of Man to rise in the place where the three Orions, Orion Township, and Orion Township and Lake Orion, where the three Orions are in the right hand of the mother, which is the state of Michigan, which is in the land of the chief of the two feathers, which is the land of the one who speaks the truth. The two feathers is he's standing on his second. All you Moors know what I'm talking about. He's standing on his second, and he's speaking from the position of truth. And if he's speaking the truth, that'll go tied directly back into your revelation of he spoke and the two-edged sword came out of his mouth. For the truth cut both ways. It cut the righteous and the unrighteous because don't nobody want to hear it, because don't nobody want to be accountable. But it's too late. We've all been held accountable. All we got to do is accept that we have been held accountable. We paid our pittance, and now we need to unify in order to escape the destruction of the unrighteous, because nothing unrighteous can ascend, only the righteous. And they're all humans. Check this. All humans now have the right to ascend. Don't mean they're going to ascend. That don't mean they're going to taste eternal life, because you have the right to eternal life. Only you can forego that. Some of them thought it was a joke and literally for money on the table, stacks of money, sold their soul. I found a way out for them. Mama said find a way out for them. Now, whether they wise enough to make allegiance to her or not is up to them. But they sold it. And now they are a permanent slave in eternity to Enlil. He bought it. You know who the devil is now. And you know why he can transform himself into an angel of light. Because he's an avian. He's an avian. When I say avian, I mean he's from a bird clan. A reptilian bird clan. He's a shapeshifter. He deceived Lilith twice. Neath. He pretended to be the Adam Cadmon who couldn't perform to get her drunk and try to rape her. She called his ass on his bullshit. Then he disgraced her and called for her to be judged. Then he pretended to be the son and shapeshifted and condemned his so-called sister and to the dismal abyss for 1,000 years. And they went on a smear campaign. They feared her. They called her a rebellious woman, just like her mom. I did the story of Lilith already. Go back and check it out. You don't know what I'm talking about. The unity doctrine is the only redemption for humanity as a collective. Otherwise, the only ones who will ascend are the ones who have been doing what is considered to be righteous, not by what no book say. Because righteousness is written in your heart. It's written on your soul. No book can tell you to do what you know in your heart is right. If a book tells you to do something you know in your heart is wrong, no matter how hard you try, something in you is going to rebel. Something in you is going to rebel. Now, so the black people paid the price, a small group, and it caused a conflict among black people. Because some black people said, you assimilationist ass Negroes, all of y'all need to die too. Because they were sent by Enlil to undermine the program. Because he don't never want nothing associated with the woman to prosper. Every time the woman want to do something, he want to kill it. So we got to restore ice skating. We got to restore ballet. We got to restore the singing. We got to restore the dancing. Everywhere you look, we have to see singing and dancing women and children with no alcohol, no PSP, and no LSD, and no cocaine, no heroin, dancing and singing. You're going to immediately feel that energy. You're going to immediately feel that energy shifted. When we flip this grid, anything that ain't right won't stay. I'm going to say it again because our phone's going to be dying soon, and I only put enough on to do this video. I only wanted to charge enough. I wanted to cut off at the end of the video that's about to do that. And so the ritual dance has to be specific. It has to be performed and written by the modern day women, incorporating old techniques and new techniques. In other words, tying alpha to omega. Y'all got to pay attention. Tying alpha to omega. Because as it was in the beginning, it has to be in the end. So now, all women have mitochondria. And the white man hate the white woman because she had the first right to ascend before him. Now you know. The white man hate the white woman because she had the right to ascend before him. Because her genetics was cleaned up first at the mitochondrial level. And she was able to give and receive love as a mother. And it pissed Enlil off. And he screamed, and they say his voice was like many waters, and it shook both the heaven and the earth. So now you know. Babylon versus Egypt. And this is why your Egyptian pantheon and your Egyptian story, if you go back, you'll remember in the story of Isaiah. No, not Isaiah. Elijah. And they poured all of this. They got all these priests out here trying to ignite this pyre of wood on fire. And he asked them about his Egyptian deities. Where your Egyptian guys now, huh? They ain't around, are they? Watch man. Fire. Same as in the story of Exodus, when they talk about the so-called Moses going there, and Moses is asking them, where your Egyptian gods now? Never telling you Moses was an Egyptian god. Never telling you that the Moses that was raised in the Pharaoh's house was the Pharaoh to be and became the Pharaoh. And that is This is why the Jews are waiting on Moses. Pay attention. The Jews is waiting on Moses because the Moses is the son of man. And they know that the Christ in the New Testament is not a man. So they're not waiting on her. The Zionists, as they call, the ones that wrote the protocols of the learned elders of Zion, which is the current blueprint for world domination that they following, not followed, past tense, ing, current tense. They're doing it now. If you see everything that they're controlling in the protocols, and you step back and you look at everything they control in real life, and they are exactly the same thing, it takes all of the guesswork out of it. It's the blueprint. But where did they get it? And who is these elders? These wise elders was a military contingent put together, not even in Israel. They was put together in the mountains of Europe where the catastrophe was discovered. And these people were called Khazars. They put together the protocols, the Khazarians. The Khazarians are not even human. They are Gulam, a whole race of Gulam, and they're trying to overthrow humans, both reptilian and mammalian humans. And they're trying to get in the middle of the conflict and put themselves as the rulers of it. But Enlil did that. Enlil did that. And so you have two other groups that didn't know what to do because of the war between the Moors and the Christians, the Islamic Moors and the Christians. They became Hebrews as Sephardi and Ashkenazi. And that pissed off the guy they called Hitler because he knew that all three of these groups was not the real so-called Jew. Not the madman they made him out to be. You got to remember that the victors, that the history is written by the ones who win, not by the ones who lose. But if you look at the context, what happened to all? They all came to the United States and got jobs under Operation Paperclip. All of the ones who wasn't part of Enlil's domination over here was tried in Auschwitz and executed. Or not Auschwitz, they was tried in the Geneva Convention. They was tried in Geneva, Switzerland, in a neutral country and put to death. But he wasn't bad. And this is where I'm gonna end this at, because we in 1940s now. And we came a long way seeing how blacks accepted this oppression. They needed to set up a false Israel to deceive you from where the real Holy Land is. And they looked all over. They was originally trying to set up in Brazil. You got to remember this when we talked about Brazil earlier in Brazilianization. They originally was going to set up in Brazil what we call Israel today. They first had to get enough sympathy on a global platform for the world to accept a hostile regime being installed as a foreign government in somebody's home. You needed a whole lot of global support, meaning that the military support for it must be so overwhelming that wherever they do it, everybody's going to comply. So now, it's more effective to start a new nation on the backs of the wealthy than it is on the backs of the poor. The wealthy can come into a strange place if they got the means and pay everybody that's already there to do their work. Whereas the poor got to physically do the work and build it themselves. Basic economics. Now, that is the state of Israel as a distraction from the true Holy Land. Because the true Holy Land is never going to be called Israel. It never has been and it never will be. It's in both the Kemetic hieroglyph and it's in the Sumerian tablets as the Absu. The Africans call it Zululand. And it also encompasses a very specific area called the Congo. That's the Holy Land. I'm telling y'all where the Holy Land at. If you don't believe me, go send some reporters to ask Credu Mutwa or Goodwill Zwilithini, where is the Holy Land? But I'm going to tell you this, as soon as they ask them, they're going to ask you where I am. They're going to flat out say, where is he? If you ask either one of them two, they're going to say, where is the son? They're going to want to know where I am for sending you to ask them. So whenever one of your reporters go over there and ask them, let them know that when they ask them, they're going to want to know where I'm at, and they're not going to be friendly. All of that friendly shit going to be gone as soon as you ask them these questions. Where is the real Holy Land? Is it Zululand and the Congo? When you ask them that, all of the game's going to be done. There's nobody on the motherland going to be nice to nothing that don't cooperate with me. And there's some shit over there y'all ain't never heard of or seen. When you see the story of Panther, and you read about Wakanda, you see what they're talking about Wakanda, Caesar is being raised as a human, but he's an ape. This is a reverse storytelling of a different story. Caesar's being raised as a human, but he's an ape. But he got the light strain, which can evolve into the life strain within him. So as Caesar grows up, you know, he feel like he wanted a family to the people he's living with. He protects that old man, and it gets him into some trouble, because in pack animals, especially the primates, when the family is under attack, there is no limit where the soldiers of the clan, which is of the other rankings, will go in order to protect the pack. This is basic pack behavior, and humans are pack animals. So when he get in trouble, they lock him up. When they lock him up, there's only one in there, the orangutan, that understands Caesar well enough to talk to him. The orangutan is representative of the Asian connection to the African. The Asian connection to the African develops with the legend of Sun Wukong. And Sun Wukong, in his celestial backflip, being told by the Buddha, and the Buddha naming him Hanuman, being the highest evolution of perfected man, being one with the Creator. In other words, fully realized. So when the Frenchman wrote the book, he was reflecting the 3/5 compromise and the Dred Scott ruling. Because if you can only tax them 3/5, you have to know the origin of taxation. Then you have to know how does it apply and what does it mean. So if they can only tax you 3/5, the only thing in the history of Earth that you were never allowed to tax was God. So by the default, the unrealized 2/5, the light strain and the life strain being dormant, surrenders the jurisdiction to the subject matter because the light strain and the life strain is dormant. Those parts cannot be taxed. But when you get into the three-dimensional fixed position reality, they're talking about the physical body, they're talking about the emotional body, and they're talking about the mental body, because you have the other 2/5 unrealized. Now, when you 2/5 awaken, these 2/5 claim first jurisdiction and first right of the 3/5, because the 3/5 is the mobile animating construct in which it navigates this reality. So this is what they put in Caesar, the light strain, life strain, the 2/5 that became realized when he was in prison. So what did Caesar come up with after consulting with the orangutan is that he needed to find a way to turn on the light strain, life strain in the rest of the apes, because they don't understand right now that they're even in prison. So Caesar dip out in the middle of the night, go to the place where they kept the vials of the light strain, life strain, come back, flood the room with it, you know what I'm saying, and turn on the light strain, life strain of all of the rest of the apes. Now they are starting to form organized mass moving units. They are forming, this is, now we had Ezekiel in Old Testament. This is the raising of the dry bones. And that's what the fumes represented when it said Ezekiel speak to the winds. The fumes that came from the canisters was Caesar's way of telling his brethren to awaken from their slumber. So the Planet of the Apes is probably one of the most significant movies, especially this last one that came out, as to the rise of the Rh positive bloodlines and the reclaiming of the throne of Earth. They already understand that this is a done deal and it's over. We just have to unify to tell them we know it too. So if I give y'all the information, then y'all can run with it. Okay, so now the light strain, life strain being fully realized, now you 5/5, the only person got jurisdiction over you is the Christ, because the Christ is the only true judge. The Christ is the only true judge. Nobody else can have jurisdiction of the person. because they can maintain the jurisdiction of the subject matter, because it's all within their system, let them have that. But because of the realized, the 2/5 that's realized, the light strain, the life strain, because they become realized, they become first claim of right to the other 3/5. So as holding the first claim of right, nobody can judge you any longer but the Christ, because the Christ is the one who controls the light strain, life strain. So in the planet of the apes, as they move through the various phases of the prophecy, you wind up at the end with Caesar after the final battle in causing the destruction of the enemy and escaping with a bullet wound, or I think it was maybe an arrow wound. And he's sitting up there. That is Moses on the mountaintop. It's telling you in plain sight what it is. If you read the story of Moses, when he gets to the mountaintop, he's allowed to look out over the promised land. What Malcolm say, I've been to the mountaintop. I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you. He said it. So, the promised land that Caesar looked out over, he passed away